Hi there folks, welcome back to the IBN Fishing channel. I hope you're doing really well. Please don't forget to hit that subs button if you're not currently subscribed. That way you'll be kept in touch with all of the news, all of the product reviews, all of the fishing and all of the other stuff that IB and I get up to on this little channel. If you're a current subscriber, thank you very much for joining us again. Really appreciate it. We're back with another review Tuesday and I honestly think I've found the best value fly fishing rod in the UK. Bar none. It is an absolute bargain. But before we get onto that, I want to talk about a couple more bargains that are going on the web shop. First off, IB and I have put together what we're calling our kind of basics pack. There is a pack there of 30 flies relevant for trout and grayling, lots of different patterns, fly box basics, fly box fillers, the kind of stuff you're going to use throughout the trout season, throughout the grayling season. These are £1 a fly. They come in a pack of 30 flies, 30 quid posted to your door, all tied on quality hooks, all tied with decent quality tungsten beads, 30 quid posted to your door, an absolute steal. The other bargain that we've got going on the web shop at the moment, it's my birthday coming up real soon, so we've decided to celebrate my birthday for this week only. The twin pack of the ABS caps that are in the web shop, instead of being 33 quid for the pair, it's 20 quid for the pair, 10 quid a hat. You can't go wrong in the web shop, abangling.co.uk. Go and check them out. Righty, so before we get straight into the review, you guys, if you've been around the channel a long time, will know that IB and I are a big fan of budget kit. There's a lot of really good value kit on the market out there, and we try and show that as much as possible. Stuff from Wish, stuff from Amazon, stuff from eBay. What we've really wanted to do is try and find some super value stuff that you can actually go into your local tackle shop and buy or order and look at. Something you can go and touch and feel rather than something you've got to mail order in necessarily. And I think I've found a total winner with the Leeda Profil Stream 8'4" weight. And before I say any more about the rod, I'm going to tell you the price. This rod is in shops at the moment at £34.99. I honestly thought the days of fly rods being sub 50 quid are over in the UK. It's very, very hard, even with the lower end brands, to find a fly rod sub 50 quid. You can barely get half a dozen tapered leaders these days for that money. So an entire carbon fishing rod ready to go. What incredible value is that? But we're going to pop it out of the bag and we're going to have a good look at it. I'm going to explain what it's about and my experiences using it. So, quite unusually for a modern fishing rod, it's actually a 3-piece. It's an 8'4" weight, 3-piece. Pop that out of there. That is the Leeda Profil Stream 8'4" weight, 3-piece fly rod. It is carbon. Now, Leeda say it's a multi-modulus carbon. I don't know what that means. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you've got any nanotube technology, silicon, carbide, resin, nano, I said nano, didn't I? Graphene, whatever. There's none of that in there, I don't think at all. This is a very, very honest 8'4" weight, 3-piece blank. Finished to a reasonable standard, and that's where we're going to start first actually, is talking about the finished fixtures and the fittings. And we'll go with the butt section first off, because that's the important one. Down at this end, very, very simple, up-locking, single nut reel seat. I've been using the rod for about 4-6 weeks, maybe perhaps a little bit longer actually. The reel seat has not come undone once. I've not had to retighten it. Don't get me wrong, I've not been using it for 10 hours at a time like I would with one of my guiding rods, but it's not let me down yet. So in terms of the functionality of the reel seat, absolutely fine. They've finished it in a nice brushed aluminium. It certainly looks the part. If you covered up the Leeda logo there, that could be off any brand rod for any price point. So nicely done there by Leeda. There's even a little bit of engraving on the butt cap just with the Leeda logo again. Again, they don't need to do that, and for 35 quid you don't really expect those kind of touches, so fair play. Now, the cork, the handle, it's a half-wells handle. If you're expecting a super high quality Portuguese, floor grade, quadruple A grade, all that fancy stuff, if you're expecting cork of that quality, then you're not going to get it for 35 quid. What you will get is a very sensibly shaped half-wells handle. There's a fair amount of filler in there. It's not the kind of thing you'd expect to find on a 600 quid rod, but it's not a 600 quid rod, so that makes sense. None of the filler has come out so far. Don't get me wrong, at some point I think it probably will, but at the moment it's absolutely fine. The shape is precise, it's comfortable to hold. The fact that it's got a cork handle for 35 quid is a surprise in itself. This could quite easily have been made cheaper with an EVA foam or something like that. So again, I'm really glad Leeda have gone for that style of handle. Coming up from there, the next thing you'll find is a keeper ring. I've said this previously, I can't understand how many modern rods don't have a keeper ring. It just baffles me, but this one has, and it's nicely finished on there. There's no glue spots or anything like that, so that's really cool. And then we've just got a very simple piece of branding, Leeda 8'4" weight Profil Stream. Straight away we can find an area here where Leeda have made a bit of a save in that rather than being a transfer, I'm pretty sure that this thing here is just a little sticker with the branding on. It really doesn't matter to me. It's a fishing rod, it's not a status symbol. Going up from there, we've got a single line stripper guide. I don't think it's a Fuji K guide or anything like that, but I'll say it again, 35 quid for a fishing rod. It's perfectly usable, it's lightweight enough, it's whipped on nicely, there's no obvious burrs to the varnish or anything like that. And one thing I'm going to point out about all the whippings on this entire rod is that they are double tipped with red and white whippings. It's actually a really nice touch. It's totally unnecessary. I do wonder if Leeda could have brought the price down by a couple of quid and not done that. But it does bring something to the rod, and again, fair play to Leeda just for trying to make this look a little bit more special, because at 35 quid, they could have just made something really plain Jane and boring, but they haven't. They've really made an effort here. Coming up from the butt section, we've got snakes right the way through. Very, very simple. They look a little bit heavyweight, perhaps compared to your modern snake, but I'll say it again, 35 quid, guys. They're all double whipped on, and all the whippings have got these double tip-ins, the red and white. The guides seem pretty sensibly spaced, actually. There's no obvious mistakes there with the spacings. Some of the whippings are a little bit heavy, don't get me wrong. Some of the varnishing's a little bit heavy, but it really isn't the end of the world. And actually, in general, the rod is finished as well as I expect any other rod to be finished with at 2 or 3 times the price. Come up to the top right here, there's a hayfork style tip ring, again still with that double tip in on the whippings, the red and the white, really, really nice. There is nothing obvious here that I could point at and say this is a really cheap rod. So initially I actually got hold of this rod to try and put together a really, really low budget starter kit style outfit. So using this rod, using a reel that we've reviewed previously, actually this is a reel that we found on Amazon, but it turned out they were on eBay as well. I'll leave a link in the description for these things because it was sub 20 quid at the time when we got hold of this. And the rod, and then I bought a really cheap line off of eBay. I think the line was £6 or £7. And I started to use this together as a kit. In fact, I've only ever used this as a kit with these items. I didn't want to use an expensive line on the rod because the reality is if you're spending £35 on a fishing rod, you're probably not going to put an 80 quid line on it. It seemed a bit stupid, so I've stuck with the line that I bought. I'm not going to review it as a kit though, because the line that I bought is absolutely terrible. I mean, awful. It's one of the worst fly lines I've ever seen in my entire life. But because I wanted to use it all as a kit, I stuck with it. I tried to make it work as best I can. It wasn't fantastic, but we're talking about an outfit here that would have been about 50 quid all in. It did a job. I've caught fish on it, but I'm not going to talk too much about the reel or the line because they probably didn't bring the best out of the rod. In terms of casting with it, do you know what? This is where the rod really, really starts to become excellent value for money, because actually, at no point during fishing or casting with this rod did I think to myself, wow, this is cheap. This feels cheap, this doesn't feel right. I was really, really surprised with how nicely it cast. There was no kind of like torsional wobble like you might expect with a cheaper blank. There was no like terrible tip bounce while I was casting it that again you'd expect with a cheaper blank. The recovery was pretty sudden, it was pretty quick, it was absolutely fine. And I felt like wherever I pointed the rod, it would go and it wouldn't stray from that kind of line, which is exactly what you want. You guys will know there's nothing worse than having a rod that's bouncing around after you've cast it, because it makes it very, very difficult to make a decent shaped loop or to point a cast in the direction that you want. And this didn't do that. Actually, it tracked pretty straight. It went where I wanted it to, and it never really strayed from the straight line path that I was trying to point it on. I've used a mixture of roll casts and overhead casts at different ranges. It handled it all pretty well in truth. It's listed as an 8'4" weight, and I actually think it is a genuine 8'4" weight. The line I had on there was a 4, it cast it absolutely fine. My feeling was if I put another 4 weight on it, it would have dealt with it absolutely fine. Didn't need to overline it particularly. It certainly wasn't soft enough that I felt like I was over gunning it and needed to underline it. Fishing it long or short, it generally felt it was about right with the 4 weight line on it. Almost all the fishing I've done with the rod has been dry fly fishing, because I felt like it kind of provides the best test of the rod in terms of tracking and pointability. I did a little bit of duo with it, but almost all the fishing I did was dry fly fishing, and I've had an absolutely brilliant time with it. As I say, accuracy was pretty much spot on. I didn't struggle with that too much. I was able to throw longer casts when I needed to. I've thrown some pretty big roll casts with it. I've gone into the wind, I've gone against the wind, I've gone under the trees, all that stuff. I've given it a pretty good working out actually, and it's pretty much done everything I wanted from it. You guys will know I much prefer a longer rod these days for dry fly fishing on the rivers. My usual rod is a 10'4" weight, but I was really excited to see how I got on with the 8-footer, and actually in a lot of situations it was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. In terms of hitting takes, because it's not a wobbly rod, because it's not a soft rod, it picked line off the water really, really quickly. I never felt like I was likely to miss anything. And in terms of playing fish, actually there is plenty of power through it. I'll say it again, this is a pretty good 8'4" weight blank. I've caught browns, I've caught grayling, I've caught some wild rainbows on this. Basically everything I've done with it, it's taken in its stride. And I really don't know what more you could want from a rod that I'll say again is £35 in the shops. So the casting, absolutely spot on. The fish playing, yeah, no problem at all. There's plenty of power down there in the blank. What faults has the rod got? I mean, there are a couple, don't get me wrong. The cork isn't great. It's not fantastic. They could have put a double locking reel seat on there. They could have put a slightly fancier reel seat on there. Who knows? They could have used lighter guides. But all of that stuff is going to start upping the cost of your fishing rod here. You've got to remember that all that fancy stuff on the rod effectively is what makes it worth more money. The expensive guides, the posh cork, you know, the super high flung fittings and stuff like that. They're the things that make a rod more expensive. What Leeda have done here actually is take out all that stuff and just make a good fishing rod with pretty average fittings. And that's quite a hard thing to do because often the fittings make the rod. I guess another failing with the rod would possibly be the weight. It's 90 grams, which for an 8'4" weight on the market is relatively heavy, but again, come on, we're talking 90 grams here. I think we get a little bit spoilt with rod weights these days. You know, we're nitpicking a gram here and a gram there. A 90 gram fishing rod is not a heavy fishing rod. Believe me, it isn't heavy. It's heavier than the other rods on the market, but they're incredibly light. We're not talking about the old glass and cane rods of the olden days at 8'4" weight. This is carbon, it's 90 grams. It's absolutely fine. Another saving that Leeda have made is the rod bag. Obviously, this is definitely a rod bag off of the 1980s. But again, does it matter for 35 quid? Is it something important? Does it need a tube? I'm not too fussed about that. It really doesn't matter. We're talking about a budget product here. So I guess the question now is, who am I going to suggest buys the Leeda Profil 8'4" weight? Because there are a huge amount of rods on the market. A lot of them will be more expensive than this. Almost all of them, in fact, will be more expensive than this. Who's going to get the most benefit out of a $34.99 fishing rod? And I'll be perfectly honest, the first thing I'm thinking of when I think about this rod is kids. If you've got a young son, a young daughter who's thinking about getting into fly fishing, what a way to start this is. There are a couple of the rods in the range. There's a 7'3" weight and a 9'5" weight, but the 8'4" weight at 90 grams is not going to be too heavy for basically any kid of any age. And at 35 quid, if they decide they're not into fly fishing or they grow out of it, does it matter particularly? Probably not. It's a great value starter rod for a youngster. But it's not just a kid's toy, it's a genuinely good fishing rod. I've really enjoyed fishing this in quite a lot of different scenarios. So if you're a river angler and you're just starting out, or you've been looking at getting into fly fishing and you didn't want to spend too much money, here you go, an 8'4" weight. It's a nice versatile tool, particularly if you're able to wade and get a bit closer to the fish, or if you're fishing smaller streams and rivers, little brooks and stuff like that. Like I say, there are two other rods in the Profil stream range. There's a 7'3" weight and a 9'5" weight. I haven't used either of those, so I can't give my opinion on those. If they're half as good as this, they are still worth the money they're at on the market, so do go and check those out. If you're the kind of person who likes to mail order stuff, please check in the description box below. We'll leave links to the rods so you can go away and buy yourself one off either Amazon or eBay. You'll be able to get it sent direct to your door. Guys, you probably guessed this is a big thumbs up from me. I cannot believe the value of this rod. It is a total steal. I think it's almost certainly the best value fly fishing rod on the market. And if you're looking for a cheap rod, if you're looking for a starter rod for a friend, if you're looking for a first rod for a son, daughter or grandkid, honestly, here it is. Go and get yourself one. The Leeda Profil Stream 8'4" weight. Incredible value for money. A fantastic little fishing rod. Really hope you've enjoyed the review. If you have, please let us know in the comment section below. If you've used one of these, or if you've got one of the other models, please do let me know. I'd love to know what you think about them. As I say, we'll put links in the description for the rod, for the caps, and for the new fly packs, so you can go away and treat yourself to something. And I'm going to wrap it up at that. Ivy and I are going to catch you guys again very soon for some more fishing and stuff. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.